Okay, yeah. So I wanted to be respectful to my fellow mayors and the governor, but I wanted to answer any questions that any of you had. First of all, I want to take full responsibility for the issues of government pCard. Any mistakes were made are entirely my own. There's no excuses or justification. And for those in our community or residents that I've disappointed, I want to apologize to all of them. And not expecting any forgiveness, but just knowing that a lot of trust and support I have to earn back, and I have to work hard every day to earn back that trust. Any purchases that were made by me on my pCard, whether for official or personal reasons, were paid back. Any personal purchases that I made were paid monthly. I do periodic reviews or annual reviews, paid that back as well. But wanted to make sure that our residents and taxpayers, for any purchases that were made on a pCard from the time I took office to today, was reimbursed in its entirety. And so that's where we are.
How much are we talking about, and how long? And what were they used for?
From 2009 to today, purchases for non-government, other than official travel, which include airfare and hotel and rental cars, total $26,000. $26,000. So about an average, about $300 a month through the years. I had reimbursed to now about $19,100, and after a final review, there was a balance about $7,500 was official business purchases. But the $19,000 also covered official purchases as well. But I just wanted to make sure all payment was made, so I made all payments. They go from the tsunami cleanup, taking care of the workers who were working, to Hurricane Isel, picking up pizzas, making sure all the workers were taken care of, Lays for Blessings, Omiyage, volunteer appreciations when staff Big Island Film Festivals, to Hawaii Island United Ways, to Tahiti Feds, community events, staff meetings, luncheon meetings, and then personal purchases that I had made myself. And
Mayor,
always.
Why did you use the pCard for those personal purchases instead of using what I would assume would be your own credit card?
You know, that's a question. That's what people have asked. You know, they say, how come you're not using? And bottom line is, I never have a credit card. You know, I had a debit card, and but I was under the impression that as long as I made payments, you know, as long as I reimbursed quickly for personal purchases, that, you know, as long as the taxpayers were made whole, you know, as long as I didn't intend to shift that burden to them, you know, I was under the impression it'd be okay. And clearly, it was bad judgment.
Are you saying restrictions when you first get this pCard at all, or you know what's?
Yes. Well, you know, it wasn't my intent to use it at any time for personal purchases, but you know, those are decisions I made. But always with the intent to pay county right back. Sometimes credited. You know, not personal purchases were credited. But again, those were just.
Are you really saying you don't have a credit card?
I have a debit card.
That's all?
Yes.
Was it also for trips to Japan with your family?
No, never. Never for family, never for trips. You know, my wife's a flight attendant, so, you know, I never used my pCard for family.
The pCard usage is really restricted use, typically.
Right.
Who signed off on that, and how long, and what sort of permissions were they giving you more than other pCard users?
Well, you know, again, that's entirely my own. You know, I made those decisions. Those actions were entirely mine, and I take full responsibility for that.
What about
I was told
coordinator? Isn't that person supposed to be looking?
Well, you know, we did have reviews. We did make sure that any purchases that were official business, and any personal ones that I made, if I made, I just paid it back that month. I just made reimbursements.
2 months to pay back the Club Evergreen? charges?
You know, I tried to pay them back as quickly as I could, either monthly or periodic reviews. But yes, so all reimbursements were made.
Can you tell us what you used, what the $900, $860 was used for at the Club Evergreen? Who you were with and what you bought with that?
Well, Club Evergreen, you know, that was my mistake, and it's a personal expense, and I paid that. Who I was with, what happened isn't important. What is important is that I shouldn't have been there, and I certainly should not have used my pCard for that.
Can you confirm the recent, I guess, $7,200 that you paid back in, I guess, recently?
Yes, I did.
And what were some of the spendings on that? Was it any unauthorized purchases as well?
You know,
Can you maybe break down some of those purchases?
Those were, you know, just as I talked about, you know, lays for blessings. You know, and looking back was for community events. You know, everywhere you'd go, you'd take a lay, you'd stop, you'd buy things, or it's for omiyages or for dinners.
Surfboard?
Excuse me?
Surfboard?
Oh, and surfboard. That was all paid for. The surfboard was paid for immediately, as was the bike. You know, those personal purchases were paid for immediately. That had nothing to do with the recent reimbursement. The recent reimbursement was to remove all ambiguity as to, I didn't want a taxpayer saying, was that official? Was that personal? That was just to say, to take care of all expenses used on my pCard from the time I took office to now.
Are you fine with the taxpayers seeing a list of everything from 2009 that was purchased on the pCard here?
Yes, the records have been released this morning, and you know, they're all government records.
We haven't received our records. Why isn't it available to the rest of the media? We made our request.
All of that will be released to everybody else. You know, Westaway today had asked for it a couple weeks ago.
But these are public documents. These should be made available to the public and
Chris,
involve taxpayer
we have
expenses.
no problem releasing those records to everybody, and they will be.
As far as the breakdown again, $26,000 was charged on your pCard.
And it, other than government and official travel.
Oh, so personal expenses?
No, the 26 is just total, everything.
Total.
Again, like I said, leis, omiyages, you know, taking, for example, on a tsunami cleanup, right? All of our workers are working. You know, go over there to provide lunch for everybody. Through Hurricane Acel, through meetings, to community meetings, to community events, taking care of the volunteers, taking care of staff.
So 26,000
is total from.
How much
sorry
is,
for moving my hands. From
How much-
2009 until 2015.
How much is clearly personal out of that group? I mean, some of it is grayer. A lot of it sounds like official business. How
Yes.
much do you think is total personal?
Probably less than half, more than less than half, about less than half. So when I looked at the 19,100 until the 7,005 that remained, about half of that, a little more than half of that.
Any other elected officials with you on the night back in December 20?
No, absolutely not.
Who was with you that night?
Friends were with me that night.
How many
Again,
people?
you know, that's, again, I'm not, that's who I was with and how many people I was with on that evening. You know, that was a expense that I made and an expense that I paid back and reimbursed. So my personal expenses and a personal expense, again, shouldn't have happened, shouldn't have been there.
How should you be penalized for
Back
this?
in December, what was the initial business coming over here?
I had a cultural event that day, tea ceremony. Came up to represent the Hawaii Island. So, tea ceremony.
How's your family responding to this?
You know, that's, you know, here in Hawaii, you know, being born and raised here in Hawaii, all of your successes you share with everybody, but so do all your failures. And the first thing you do when you make mistakes is sit with your family, you know, and talk to them and explain it to them and you know, apologize to them. And that's what I did.
Are you currently still
No.
able to use this pCard here at all, or has it been taken away right now?
I've suspended my pCard use. Will not be using it for any purchases throughout the remainder of my term.
Was the finance director directed by you to allow these charges to be made on a regular basis over a period of these years? Or how was it that it got asked for?
I mean, they looked at it, they would flag it if they thought, hey, Mayor, is this a personal expense? But I flagged it myself and made the reimbursements myself every month. Said, hey, I made this purchase, here's my reimbursement. Yes.
Most people, if they use their work credit card inappropriately, they get disciplined. They may even be prosecuted criminally. Do you think you got special treatment here?
No, I don't think I got special treatment. But I did exercise bad judgment over a period of time. And certainly there's no excuse or justification for bad judgment.
What should be your punishment?
Not to use the pCard again, not to have access to it. And
if you found out a council member was doing the same thing?
No, I have not. I have not talked to the council members.
If you found out someone was doing it within the county government, how should they be disciplined?
My response to that would be if they reimbursed their purchases and the burden wasn't shifted to the taxpayers and they acknowledged their mistakes, then I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't hold a council person or anybody else to a different standard.
Yeah, but
and I hold myself
would be criminally prosecuted for that.
Well, I don't know about that. There was no intent to, at any time to shift any purchase to the taxpayer. There was, any purchase that I made, my name's on that. It's a public record, and I take full responsibility for that.
So why did you use that card?
Oh, I was asked earlier, and I was under just a mistaken impression that as long as I made payment, took responsibility, and made payment, did not shift that burden to the taxpayer, that it was okay. And clearly, reviewing policy and talking to staff, I'm not standing here to say it was appropriate, or it was okay, but those mistakes, as I said earlier, is entirely my own, and that's a responsibility I've got to bear, but there's no shifting of blame, there's no finger pointing, no excuses.
Why didn't your administration make these records available immediately?
We've been asked periodically by media, and I've turned it over, and we've given summaries. All purchases that were made to taxpayers were turned over. I talked to Nancy about this, Lauer, on her request, and when she requested it in March, me and my staff compiled it and had it ready for her. We talked about it the other day. I went up, I said, hey, Nancy, talked to her and told her, hey, Nancy, those records were available for you. But she said she just forgot. We didn't say no, to it.
She forgot?
Nancy Kuklauer, the reporter, it was sitting there for her, and the subsequent request wasn't made. I'm not blaming Nancy or shifting it to her, but when I talked to her the other day, they tell her that when she asked for it, we did make it available within the 10 days. We didn't say we weren't going to turn it over or we didn't turn it over. It was made available.
So those weren't redacted versions or reports of actual expenditures, not the actual expenditures?
They were summaries. It was the statements itself were redacted, credit card numbers, and reimbursements. Yeah.
And places? Did you include the places in that? The expenditures, where they were spent at?
I'm not exactly sure about that, Rick, but I do know it was made available and ultimately, turned over to Nancy. She has.
Are there any other bars like Evergreen here that you say you've spent more than $500 at using the pCard at all?
No.
Mr. Mayor, you're known to be a full, smart, savvy guy, and you're an attorney.
Yes.
How do you expect people to take this from you that you, smart attorney who you are, weren't aware? You seem to be pleading ignorance.
Robbie, I was asked that by a good friend. Exact same question you just asked. Hey, Billy, you're a smart guy. How could you be so dumb? So stupid. And I had no answer. I just was. And it was a practice that you get in your mind. Hey, I use it as long as I pay it back. It's okay. But it's not okay. You look at it and clearly bad judgment on my part. And, I'm not telling anybody that I didn't know better or shouldn't have known better. I clearly should have known better,
So
but
can you
again,
give us-
this is mine, and I own it. And
Who else knew about this personal spending on the pCard besides you?
but the reimbursements as I made, so, my administration know about it.
Did someone
Right.
flag it in your administration? Like, I mean, along the way that
Yeah,
you
I mean, people was
hey,
like,
this
"Hey."
guy seems to be doing this all the time.
Yeah, I've
what happened
sit and
here?
they said, hey, are you making sure, that payments were made? And I always made sure that payments were made and reimbursements were
So
made.
you were reimbursed before anyone told you to reimburse?
Yes. The reimbursements that we're talking about from last year, Club Evergreen, that was before any media requests were made. That was back in March. The request was made in April
And
of
was-
2014. So, it wasn't like a request was made and I made payment. So as soon as, it's one of those reviews, right? You look back and you end of the month, you make reimbursements, you go back, look again, flag it. Sometimes it's official business, but you're like, the taxpayer should pay that. I'm going to pay that. Or, you know what I mean? I had a group there and you're like, I'll go pay that. I just go pay that.
So can
But,
yeah. Can you
so
give us-
anyway, to answer your question, no, the payment, the reimbursements were not made in response.
Can you give us